right, here we are with the Reviiv HQ here.
Hey Forrest, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How you doing over there, Tom?
Yeah, doing awesome. Across here in England. Where are you, mate, today?
In Mexico, in central Mexico, in Morelia, the capital of Michoacan, and our meanwhile Reviiv HQ. Although the Reviiv is wherever you are these days because we're so geographically disparate.
Yeah, lovely, fantastic. And I think helping us out today's Tor in the background. I don't know, Tor, if you can say a quick hello to the team, that'd be awesome to everyone listening.
So yeah, hello Reviiv community.
Yay. Hey Tor, is it up on the Facebook page? Are we good to go? And
yep.
It's all
we're all live.
Actually. Okay, cool. So quick update to all our Facebook community. A few of you are going to be joining a bit later on, but we're going to take, I don't know, 20 minutes today, 30 minutes today to hear a little bit from ourselves at Reviiv, and Forrest is going to update us on some really exciting things that are happening. And we are going to also end up with a nice Q&A from any of you guys that want some specific questions answering. So the format today is just keeping it casual, enjoyable. We're here. We want to help you. We started this company to help you guys, so we'd love to hear from you. So let's just dive straight into it. And Forrest, maybe you could kick us off and just remind us why did we start Reviiv? Where did it come from? And what's the essence of why we're doing this?
So we've boiled that down over time into kind of our core mission statement. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to kind of talk through a little bit of how our focus was when we started this company, which was we wanted to make something that was not going to be another phone case, another piece of plastic, another something that's adding a detrimental impact to our world and to society around us, and actually wanted to move in the opposite direction and put our time and energy and build a team focused on adding value to everyone involved, and that's where we've spent most of our first couple of years in building this Move Plus in building this device is really focused on our core mission statement, which has evolved over time and actually become simpler and more streamlined. But just to kind of tell you what that is for our which kind of kicks off all of our meetings with our worldwide core team. Our core mission and values are increasing the quality of life in the most substantial way we can for the largest number of people we can. And again, that's fairly streamlined now, but the foundation for that was based around doing something to impact lives positively. There's a couple of things I'd like to point out about how we've actually framed that and why we've streamlined it in the way we have, which is, one, we've tried to hold ourselves accountable. The increasing quality of life is measurable. So that's something that we can actually measure, and we're going to be measuring with our user base going forward. And in the most substantial way possible. So the number of people is measurable, and then how substantially we change that quality of life or improve that quality of life is also measurable. So that leaves us with something where we're not just talking of kind of pie in the sky fluffy words. We're putting ourselves on the hook for delivering something that's going to actually be in line with our values, and we can measure that. And so that's where we started from and where we're continuing today. I think there's some small changes in where we've come along the road with the device that we're developing. All of our founders had knee problems from long-term sports, competitive sports, whether it's rugby or CrossFit or wrestling. Old injuries over time develop into chronic pain. And there's a number of mechanisms for this. But it's one of the things that all of us had in common was we had knee pain that we wanted to be able to fix. And because of that, we were so focused on being able to fix our own problems that we felt like it's hard to kind of see where your blind spots are. And we in naming our product the Knee Plus, we didn't necessarily take into account the full range of function of what we were actually developing. And over time, in interacting with our community, with questions, with kind of daily questions, because it is a question that I think our social team and our leadership team gets asked every day, is that's great that it can reduce pain and inflammation for your knees. can it work for other joints and or other tissue in the body? And it absolutely can. And so, having been asked that question, probably in the thousands of times now, what we'd like to take the opportunity today to do is update our product name to reflect what our community has given us from feedback, which is it's not just knees that hurt. It's not just knees that get inflamed and have pain, chronic pain longer term. There's a number of different joints in the body that erode over time as you age, and the device that we've developed actually provides real and meaningful benefits to those joints and that tissue from a inflammation reduction and recovery standpoint and pain reduction. So we're taking the opportunity today to be able to reflect where our blind spots were in the first place. We'd like to be able to correct that, and instead of begging the question of does this knee plus actually work for other tissue, we'd like to change and update the branding of the product to reflect what our community has actually been more interested in as outcome.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's a great background on it. So just explaining where we've come from and then the release of the product and then actually listening to our community. And it's one of the great things that we really focused on very early on was building a relationship with the community so that we could actually engage with this and actually get feedback about colors, about positioning, about what do people really want or need. And just before we sort of talk about the new name and all that excitement of why we've chosen that name and the name, could you just tell us a little bit about in our community, we've got a lot of different styles of people, and there's a lot of different pathologies that people are having challenges with. There's a lot of different demographics and situations with people. Could you explain a little bit about what the groups are that we've seen on that, and how do we help them, and why this new product name, is going to really help all those demographics?
Absolutely. So I think you can always kind of slice things from a number of different ways, perspective-wise. But one of the things that come to us as a founding leadership group is that, from an audience standpoint, for the people who this has resonated with tend to fall into three camps. One is young, highly competitive performance athletes. So whether that's amateur or professional, we've actually seen a lot of both. These athletes either have an acute injury and want to recover from it faster, like an ACL tear, MCL tear, have torn something in their shoulder, edema in the ankles. There's kind of across the board as far as the types of injuries. But their goal is to be able to get back through the pain and through the inflammation into their training faster. And their other goal that we see from the performance athletes is they'd like to be able to recover faster. So one of the things that light therapy helps with is being able to reduce the inflammatory markers that are triggered by heavy training. And so what that allows is a reduced delayed onset muscle soreness in many cases, and also being able to go back to training heavier faster. So just your body being able to repair itself faster. The second group is what Tom and I would probably qualify for as weekend warriors, where we're still interested. We still like to be in competitive sports. Many of these athletes are in triathlons, long distance running, ultra marathons, CrossFit, volleyball, a number of different sports, but are not usually in the professional level anymore. This is typically all weekend warriors, fathers, and again, people who at the age of around 40 are starting to see some of the wear and tear add up on their body over years and decades of competitive athletics. And that's where we kind of fall in again, Tom and myself, and whether it's my old MCL and meniscus tear or different injuries that Tom's had over years of playing rugby. These things do add up and leave a mark on you. And so this group has been most interested in being able to push themselves for additional decades and be able to recover from previous injuries and the inflammation that those trigger now. And as an example of what that looks like, if I go, 20 years ago, if I go do box jumps on a 24-inch box, that really doesn't put a pounding on my knee that's going to increase inflammation or pain. Right now it does. And if I don't treat with the the light therapy, then it's something that sticks around for days versus being able to get back to training the next day if I'm treating for it. So this is the type of recovery pattern that you're seeing from this second group. It gets back into moving a little bit faster. And the third group is the older group, where we're seeing essentially 55 and older seniors want to be able to carry on with movement, with lifestyle-based movements, whether it's kind of short jogs, running, getting upstairs without pain. They'd like to be able to not lose functionality over the coming decades, and they like to have an empowerment from a mechanistic standpoint for being able to keep the functionality, the movement that they have from a lifestyle standpoint, not necessarily from a competitive or training standpoint, just staying positive in lifestyle. And I think what we're seeing is that's actually very much in line with the medical research in this space, which has shown that over the past 20 years, the average adult onset age of osteoarthritis has gone from mid-60s to low 50s. And that's what we're seeing right now, is those low 50s to low to mid 50s. I think what we're seeing is that's actually, sorry, I had a little feedback there. But yeah, the main thing is that they like to be able to maintain their lifestyle and their movement within that lifestyle. And to give you an example of what that looks like, Ed Sanderson, who's one of our first beta users, had played rugby for 20 to 30 years and had rough knees because of this. And he was at a point where the number of steps he could take per day was going down to around, I think it was capped at about 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day before he started feeling extreme pain and inflammation and swelling from that type of walking. And over the first 2 months of treatment, he was able to get that back up to 15,000 steps in a day with minimal pain and inflammation. And so those are the lifestyle type movement changes that we can make in these three different groups. And they're very different focuses as those groups and what their outcome that they'd like to see from using the device. But all of those, in one way or another, are focused around the freedom to move. Everyone would like the freedom to move, whether it's in heavy training, whether it's in continuing to be able to do moderate training, or whether it's lifestyle movement. And I think that's informed our decision as to where to take the brand for this device.
That's great explanation, Forrest. Thank you. And just, Forrest, as you're talking, there's more people joining in, so maybe we could just recap quickly. So the goal today is we've got an announcement about the name and the change in that angle. We're also going to talk about shipping, and perhaps we could just quickly, before we talk a bit more about the name, let's just update people on shipping and where we're at with that, and what's a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes, because I know there's yourself got early mornings, late nights. I'm doing early mornings, late nights, and with factory in China, me in the UK, you in Mexico, we're really covering all time zones around the world. So could you just, for everybody listening, give us a quick update on the shipping? And I know there's going to be more announcements, but what do we know at the moment? And what can people expect?
Absolutely. So just first, the kind of behind the scenes this year is that supply chains, I've been in supply chain for 20 plus years. I've never seen a year like this. It's where you would normally expect to see components arriving with reasonable reliability within 3 to 4 weeks. We've been pushed out to 3 to 4 months for a number of components. And for us, for our understanding of what we've promised to our community, that's unacceptable. And so in some of the cases, we've gone back and done complete redesigns of different sections of the product to be able to use more readily available components. This is typically not something that you have to do when you've already done what's called design for manufacture. That's typically, once you've frozen it, it's frozen. We've had to go back and do things like, and actually this was not even the COVID impact. This was the Ukraine war impact. Our Bluetooth module, which is kind of the core brains of the device, was unavailable for 3 to 4 months based on the supply chain constrictions because of the Ukraine war. And we went back, and in replacing that, we had to redesign that. We also had to redesign some of the subsystems And we had to completely rewrite the code around that. And our team, I have to give them really strong credit for this. They've done that redesign, that full redesign, in less than 2 weeks. And so we've essentially shaved, what could have been a much more impactful delay down to a 2 to 3 week delay on those parts, which is, again, what we've been trying to do with everything that comes up. We're not just accepting what the situation is throwing at us. We're putting our team into a challenge mode for what we can do to be able to deliver this back to our community faster. With that said, it has been an extremely challenging year, and we've been fighting this on all fronts with the supply chain, but we are now towards the end of this fight. We have been holding off on announcing the specific delivery date until we have the actual components in hand in our factory. But we have actually started manufacturing. So, and we are right now anticipating receipt of our final components by next Wednesday. And by the end of next week, we have another live stream that we're going to be doing that we'll be posting on both the group and Indiegogo and on social media for announcing the specific dates for delivery. So that's where we stand right now. We're towards the end of this really difficult and challenging time with the supply chain, and we'll have full accountable details in our own hands, because when it's not in your own hands, it's very difficult to make those commitments, because those things change and you can't really do anything about it. Once the components are in our hands, we actually have control over when those delivery dates are, and are happy to be able to sign on the dotted line and make full promises, which we'll be doing next week.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing, isn't it? That we've said a date that we genuinely anticipated to deliver, and due to things out of our control, we've not been able to. So rather than make a third commitment and not work, let's just hold out a few more days. But as to the update that we sent out, I think 2 days ago on Indiegogo and to our community on our email list, we actually have over 3,000, that we've got all the orders for the 3,000 cases, for the cables, for loads of the components are actually in the factory ready to go. So it is, as you say, it's been the end of a darkish tunnel, mild, a candlelit tunnel.
That's right. And we're coming now to the light at the end of that tunnel, and it's great. It feels amazing. There's nobody who wants to have these products in user hands more than us. We've really committed a lot, and our team have, both from a supply chain standpoint, but also whether it's Roselle from our logistics team, who's been answering questions on when we're shipping and how we're shipping, and has been finding ways to reduce that shipping time to get these products out and try to shave days off of delivery, or it's Tor, who's been answering these questions for months with uncertainty provided from us to her, so that she can't answer these in a certain way, which is a stressful position to be in. We really have to give a strong nod to our team on this one, because they've done an amazing job in dealing with this in a really uncertain and difficult, stressful time.
Yeah, that's it. And we've also at the same time received a lot of very positive emails and comments from our community, saying how much they are looking forward to it. And as Forrest just said, we reiterate it, we want this device with you as much as you want this device with you.
Probably more.
Yeah, it's been a lot of time going into this, and we can't wait to have it with you, and you giving us feedback on and hearing the stories about how it's helping you and how you're getting active again and just enjoying life again with that percentages of recovery and less pain every opportunity. So look, we're 20 minutes in. Let's talk a little bit, Forrest, about the product name. Let's go into that, and then I think we're getting a few questions coming through, people asking about, does it help for swollen knees or anything like that? So maybe let's talk about the name. Let's show the logo.
Absolutely. So to kind of wrap up from our earlier talk about this, we found that all of our three kind of categories of users had one thing in common, which they were looking for freedom of movement, and that positivity and the impact that has on their life. And so our movement forward from a branding standpoint is going to reflect that. I think we can put the slide up for what we're moving forward with.
Da, da, da.
Excuse me.
Big loud music, emotional
Yes.
music. We are. Woo!
So as you can see here on the screen, our device now will shift from being the Knee Plus, which is again does beg a lot of questions that we were answering on a daily basis, and we're very happy to announce we're moving it to the Move Plus, which again just reflects that core functionality, that core need for freedom of movement that all of so many of our community have come back with, and it also resonated with our founders team because again, that's even though it was with the knees, one of the things that's been very difficult with particularly with leg and ankle issues is that you lose so much activity from a standard day by not being able to reduce that pain, by not being able to use the limbs like you normally could. And so the Move Plus is how we're going to be moving forward with branding on the Knee Plus. And I think, Tom, you'd mentioned that we had a few questions as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I just like to reiterate, Forrest, that this community, and we're going to hear from them now, but this community is really what's driven the name of this. And we really listened. We had an internal questions about it. We summarized maybe over 100 different names that we went through, and we really thought about it. And then we summarized that and went back to the community to ask them. So thanks to all of those guys for their input. And I think as we continue our product development, we want to continue that, don't we? What colors, what issues are they having? How can we fix it? How can we make it better? So even when the device arrives, we'll be looking for that feedback back to us. And as we can see in this beautiful picture here, it is absolutely designed for the knee, but it's going to work on the shoulder, the elbow, all over. And I think we're going to have some exciting announcements on straps as well, Forrest. Is that correct?
Yes, we are going to have some straps available in the next month that we'll be making some announcements about sometime in August. And so looking forward to that as well, but it will make it a little bit easier to use on other body parts and other tissues that people really, we've found a great need for this, a great gap for this in the market for what exists from a product, but also with our beta users, the results and the outcomes that people get from these are just amazing. It's been very humbling to see that. Okay,
so Forrest, there's a few comments coming in. So we've a couple of shout outs. We got Frida on the call. Hey, Frida. Also, Tudor back from Romania again. I wonder if he's been out cycling recently. He normally is every day, I think. But I like this. The recent post, I don't know who it is. The name's not coming up, but it says, "Oh, I like it. Move is good. Motion is lotion." Lol.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is. We'll also be releasing as we get towards the product delivery, some training videos to support different parts of the body. We've had some amazing results. I think one of the things that would be great to talk about with our users in general, and maybe just do a teaser of it today, but at some point in time go in depth on it, is some of the results we've seen with the medical practitioners who have been using these devices and have been developing protocols around them. As an example, Dr. Luke at the Advanced Health Clinic in Chicago has been doing some amazing things that really resonated with me because of my past injuries. But just to kind of give the 80-20 or back of the napkin version of that, Dr. Luke was treating, so Dr. Luke treats thousands of patients a month, has an extremely successful clinic, the Advanced Health Clinic, where they're doing amazing things, a very innovative approach to treatment, to therapy, and they're getting great results because of that. Really kind of a groundbreaking guy and a great team that he's got there in Chicago. I went to go see them. One of the things that he's been doing with our beta units is meniscal tears are very difficult to treat from a surgery standpoint. And when surgery is an option, or as the only option from a meniscus standpoint, the outcomes from a probability standpoint are not great. You're looking at flipping a coin for a positive versus negative outcome from surgery. So it's not something that you see recommended very lightly, usually from a professional, from a medical professional standpoint. Which means that it's a great opportunity for treatment and therapy. And one of the things that Dr. Luke has been doing with his team is treating patients with meniscal tears and using the Reviiv Lite both in the clinic, the Move Plus both in the clinic and at home, and providing them with a recovery plan from a workout and a movement strategy. He's been able to help 3 different people, and we're going to do some videos with him in the near future on these kind of case studies, avoid meniscus surgery completely. And this took roughly 6 weeks to 2 months, but this was people who were certainly tracked, 100% tracked for moving forward with a meniscus surgery because they're still active in sports and active in competitive sports. And this type of power to be able to do that with home treatment and home exercises, to be able to empower these patients to be able to treat themselves at home with this and get themselves out of the requirement or the need for surgery over a 6 to 8 week period is one of the more exciting things that I've seen from our beta programs. And I'm again, that may be because I've had a meniscus tear in the past, and I've had to look down the barrel of that surgery. And it's an uncomfortable place to be because, again, you want to make a decision. There's so much uncertainty around the outcomes for that. You'd like to make a decision that's going to affect you in a positive way, but in those type of cases, the uncertainty is greater than the certainty from a positive outcome standpoint. So being able to have a separate choice where working yourself, you can actually work through a strengthening program for the muscles around the knee, and you can actually reduce the ongoing inflammation that just trickles out when you have these type of traumatic injuries in that joint tissue is just so powerful. So we'll be kind of putting these case studies out in the groups. If you have other questions about these type of treatments or pathologies with our current beta users, we'd love to hear the questions and be able to provide the information that's most useful for you. But this one in particular was very powerful for me.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And it's just the start, right? We're going to hear so many of these positive stories. I'm sure of that. Couple more questions. And just to update Tudor, who we said hello to earlier over in Hungary. And I said he's probably been out on his bike. He has. He's just won the Hungaroring 24-hour in a 4-guy relay. So that's congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations. And Tudor 6 months ago had a pretty heavy bike accident. And it's how he got introduced to light therapy is that his physio was using it. And the reason why Tudor bought one of our devices, our pre-sale devices, is because he wants to take it with him to these competitions and be able to treat himself on the go. So he's extremely excited to get it in his hands and get using it and start some testimonials back to us. So there's 2 questions currently in the group. If anyone's got more questions, please throw them in here. If we don't answer them now, we will answer them later on as well. But so there's a couple of questions here. One is, what's the difference between LED, infrared? Oh, no, well, we're going to come on to that one. But the first one that just moved there is, how does light therapy affect cartilage repair and regrowth? Which I think is a great
Absolutely.
question.
And we've actually got some good papers together around this. I need to kind of pull them together as summaries for something that we can publish for it. But one of the things that's interesting about cartilage regrowth is that it doesn't stop. What happens is particularly when you have heavy inflammation in a joint, that inflammation that's there in the joint over time chronically breaks down the amount. It reduces the amount of cartilage that grows, and it increases the amount of cartilage that deteriorates. And so what it does is it puts you out of balance for how much cartilage you have there, and it wears down the cartilage over time. When you can reduce, so how light therapy works is one of the key mechanisms is reducing this inflammation, these inflammatory impacts on the cartilage. So it gets you back more to balance to where you're kind of neutral from a production standpoint. One of the other things it does is increases the proliferation of mesenchymal stem cells. Well, 2 things actually. Mesenchymal stem cells help with bone and cartilage growth, and by increasing the proliferation and then what that means to have mesenchymal stem cells is they can kind of become any cell in your body. They also, when they are treated with light therapy, selectively a higher percentage of them go for cartilage or bone growth. And this is one of the reasons why you start seeing the shift move from an imbalance in a negative kind of cartilage degenerative state to a cartilage regenerative state. And the other thing is collagen. There's some specific types of collagen that help build the framework or architecture for the regrowth of cartilage. And these types of collagen increase with the presence of photobiomodulation, of light therapy. So there's a few different mechanisms for that, but the short answer is light therapy positively affects the balance of cartilage regrowth versus degeneration. And so you can actually regrow cartilage in your joints, and you trend more towards that by using the light therapy.
Great answer. And we can't see who these names are on this yard stream that we're using, but I think on Facebook group we'll be able to see the names, so we can come back to you with some specific, and Tor's making notes behind this call now, and we'll be able to, any papers we've got or any specific answers we've got, we'll send them to you on these. So just a couple more. Frida, who asked a little bit earlier, essentially is she's had a knee surgery 3 years ago due to a car accident, and has got a pin inside her knee, and the knees are still swollen. Can this reduce swelling? And maybe, Forrest, tie that in with the inflammation side of things and that side. Yeah,
absolutely. So yes is the short answer to that as well. Two main mechanisms for that. One is the reduction of inflammation that we just discussed in answering the last question. The other one is that the one of the things that happens when you have surgery or traumatic tissue damage in a joint is that the microvasculature is damaged as well. And that's not just in the joint, that's in the region. And one of the underlying mechanisms for how light therapy works is it cleaves nitric oxide from hemoglobin. And so you have hemoglobin going through your blood. When that nitric oxide is cleaved from the hemoglobin, that free nitric oxide increases the size of or dilates the blood vessels. When those blood vessels are dilated, you deliver more healthy blood to the area, and the rate of healing, rate of recovery improves. And so two things: one, reducing the inflammation directly from a cellular level, and two is providing more healthy blood to that area. But yes, and if you're interested, like Tom mentioned, there's also a number of clinical trials that have gone into the weeds from a medical or physiological standpoint with regards to how these mechanisms work.
Yeah, Frida, I hope that answers your question. And, we're welcome to jump on, we're actually welcome to jump on a call with anybody on this chat, actually, to be really honest. But we're welcome to send you some specifics, either summary papers. If reading heavy science literature isn't your thing, we've done summaries on a lot of this. But if you do want the actual science papers, we're happy to share those as well. And one thing you're going to notice as we come through with our names and things is our website and the whole rebrand to everything we're doing, and we'll supply a lot more of this available for you online. So a couple more questions for us if we've got maybe 5 more minutes. So there is 2 or 3 more questions, but see how you go with these answers. So Elizabeth asked about how it'll help with her husband's knee osteoarthritis, which we have touched on some, but maybe, I think, not sure if Elizabeth was on the call a bit earlier, you could just touch on that briefly as a sort of short reminder and summary. And we've got great papers we can share on this, of course.
Absolutely. So osteoarthritis is one of the pathologies where we've spent the most time, both in testing and in the research phase, from a dosaging standpoint. And we're very happy with the osteoarthritis outcomes that we're seeing from our beta units, but also it's the literature on this is not equivocal. There are thousands of papers on osteoarthritis, high hundreds with that applying to knees, and we've got a database of, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 papers that we've pulled together and are going to be posting on our website once we can figure out the correct mechanism for doing that, to provide some of the background of why we're so excited about this technology in the first place. With osteoarthritis, the results are immediate from a pain standpoint, but from a functionality, so from a pain and functionality, you'll see immediate impacts on this. And that would be, within a 2-week, within a 15-minute period, you'll see substantial changes in pain levels. Within a 2-week period, you'll see changes in functionality from an angle of the range of motion for the joint. And within 2 to 4 weeks, you'll see a very substantial change in functionality from walking distances, walking or running. Both increase significantly over that kind of 2 to 4 week period. It's actually a very good point. We should probably, with our documentation that we provide, send out some level of the expectation per time period relative to what both is supported by the medical literature and by our own beta tests, because it's a powerful change, and this is one where, again, I think probably the most relevant case study that we had was one of our earliest ones with Ed Sanderson, who with his injuries from rugby, often injuries can trigger injuries when you're younger can trigger longer term osteoarthritis, and it comes back to the inflammation that introduces into the system, the chronic inflammation and again, the damage to the microvasculature in the area. But his ability to be able to walk went from 3,000 steps to 15,000 steps in a 2 to 4 week period. So I think these are not unreasonable expectations. I would say when we provide these expectations, we try to give a reasonable scale of what those could be on a 0 to 10 pain scale, which is one of the normal ways that this is tracked from a clinical standpoint. What we've seen with our beta users is with osteoarthritis, if you have a user who's at a 3 or 4 out of the pain scale, they may go to a 2 over the first couple of weeks of treatment. Where the treatment has been much more effective is when you're at a 6 to 7 on the pain scale, or 8. You're seeing that go from a 6, 7, 8 down to a 2 to 3 on the pain scale over that same 2 to 3 week period. And that's the, while it's exciting to get anyone's pain down, those are the big kind of life-changing shifts that provide that freedom of movement that people are really looking for. So I would say that we, if you'd like it, we're happy to provide expectation documentation to you as we get closer to shipping. But this is something where you will see, particularly with osteoarthritis, a life-changing, particularly at the higher scale of pain, a life-changing impact on his day-to-day life.
That's awesome, Forrest. And thank you. And Elizabeth, if that doesn't answer your question, please do reach out to afterwards, and we'll supply all the data and information you need. So, Forrest, going to keep going with some questions as they're coming in. So, if that's okay. The next one is, we're going a bit on the technical side of it, so you just go steady, Forrest, please.
Just pull me back out if I go too deep on
it. So this is a question. Again, I apologize, I can't see all the names of the people asking these questions, only some of them. So this question is about the difference between LED and infrared. Sorry, LED infrared and laser infrared in obviously the treatments.
Sure. There's a few things that we should touch on with infrared. One is that we're using near infrared, and we're using a specific wavelength of near infrared, which is shown to be more effective, which is 808. You'll see this is either 808 or 810 nanometer, which is essentially the peak to peak distance. These nanometer descriptions are used to kind of give an idea of which type of color of light or electromagnetism that we would be using. And as an example, we're using deep red at 650, but with infrared we're using 808, and it actually makes the device more expensive to use 808, and also makes the device more expensive to use laser. And so why would and lasers are much more finicky and harder to design around from an electrical engineering standpoint. And also require additional regulatory with FDA. So they made everything much harder for us to get to market with a laser product versus an LED. So why wouldn't we use an LED, which are much more robust components and are easier to design around, and you don't have to go through the FDA for? Because LEDs emit light in what's called a Lambertian pattern, which I think in lay terms is could be thought of as a spray. They spray photons in kind of all directions. LED chips are usually packaged in a curved cup in either a plastic, ceramic, or aluminum substrate. That curved piece emits the light takes the light from going into 180 in one direction, or actually essentially in a 360-degree emission pattern out of the actual die, out of the chip, and it curves it back into 120-degree spray of light. So it's just really broad, yeah. So it's whereas with lasers, so two things. One is it's very broad, and it's, if you're using it for surface level treatment, that's great. We actually use red LEDs because red's not meant to penetrate as far, and LEDs are not meant to penetrate as far, or as consistently. So we bring more healthy blood to this tissue by using red LEDs to treat the surface in synergy with the lasers that are treating the internal tissue. When you're treating internal tissue, infrared penetrates, whether it's from lasers or LED, more effectively than red does. What LED and infrared don't do very well, though, is penetrate reliably to a depth that's going to be most effective for treating the tissue in joints and in neuromuscular tissue. And the other part of that is that it's also much harder to dose them. One of the key things for getting the best outcomes, for getting real positive outcomes, is making sure that you have the correct dose of photons at the right depth on the right tissue. And when you have a laser, you can actually design around that and control that, because the laser, instead of having 120-degree angle of emission, has a roughly ellipse emission pattern, and so it's the light is, you can collimate the light, which means to make it like a column instead of like a spray, and so it penetrates through to the tissue that you'd really like to be treating much more effectively, and you can control that dosage and map and model that dosage much more effectively. So the key technology in any light therapy device is the dosage. And one of the things that we differentiate relative to any commercial products that we've seen out there is our dosage model is extremely more sophisticated and advanced than anything we've seen from a commercial device. With that said, there are a number of clinical devices out there that do a really good job of dosing. And as an example, there's a device company out of North America called Thor that has designed and developed very well modeled and engineered and dosing focused devices essentially for medical professionals, and they start around $15,000 to $20,000, I believe, for their desktop versions. Our goal with the Move Plus was to be able to provide that level of dosing, that level of light distribution modeling, so that we can know and prove that our device doses more effectively to someone that can use it at home. So being able to provide this device at a $15,000 level means that you can receive the correct doses in a clinic, in a clinical setting, in a medical professional setting. But our feeling for these devices is that they need to be used at home. They need to be mobile, and you need to be able to travel with them. And combining the convenience and the dosing together was our core goal from an engineering standpoint and from a dosage and modeling standpoint with these devices. And that's why we've taken the time, and it's taken us longer to design this more sophisticated laser system. And it's taken us a longer and more expensive route with how to get that through a regulatory path so that we can make it FDA listed, so we can get it to market with the correct dosing profiles. But we felt that this is the right way to do this. And if we're going to make a product that we're using on ourselves and our children, and we're going to bring a positive benefit to our community, like our core mission value is, that's the right way to go. Regardless of the resources it takes to get there.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Forrest. That's great on the LED and laser. And again, apologise, I can't see the names of people that have asked these questions. So just a couple of other mentions in the group. There's just a few nice comments. One lady, I must be, said, I ticked the second box of competitive mums when you were talking about the 3 different groups, which is quite cool. Somebody from Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. Big shout out to yourself. And I think that another one just somewhere down here is someone sent a really lovely message in just saying, sometimes delays are unavoidable. However, your live streams and other updates have been very helpful, much appreciated. So I think that's a really cool bunch of comments from there. That's really nice.
We really appreciate the support, guys. We've been out here grinding it, like Tom said, early mornings, late nights, anything that we can do where we can shorten the time by putting our time or our team's focus and engineering time into shortening that time. We've made the decision to do that, and it's I think it's going to pay off in the end. It's we're finally getting to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, a couple more questions, Forrest. Perhaps this one we can follow up with a bit more, some more literature on it later, and I'll try to group some in a little bit. But would it be effective? Maybe give the short version, and we can go a bit deeper in a minute. Would it be effective for knee patellofemoral pain syndrome?
Yes, and we actually Torres has got a few papers that I sent over about this. But yeah, knee patellofemoral pain syndrome. Yes, there's specific clinical research showing substantial and meaningful changes. And there's also general papers on tendinopathy that we can provide as well for this. So the answer is substantially effective for patellofemoral pain syndrome.
Great answer. And Sean always has some great comments. Sean Curran, thanks, Sean, for being part of this community. I think it's relation to your comments on the lasers, and he said, I guess that's why they put lasers on the sharks' heads and not LEDs.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Couple of questions more to go on this one. So, huge cyst behind your knees. Wondering if this can reduce these. Again, we're not medical professionals here, and we're not doctors, so seek a medical advisor. But we have read the science. We have everything we're telling you is based on probably thousands of hours of reading, thousands of papers, and we're happy to share that with you. So if you want us to, anything we've said here, if you're like, look, we want you to back that up with something, confront us on it, ask us on it, we will share it with you. And if you need to go deeper, or again, if you're a sports athlete or you're a semi-pro athlete and you need this backing up with your medical professional, your doctor or your coach, arrange a call with us. We're happy to do it. We'd love to hear from you. It's how we make better products. It's how we make products that are effective. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to us. Are you getting the benefits? And is this working for you? So yeah, sorry, the cysts behind the knees, and can it reduce those?
So the clinical literature indicates it can. I have spent less time in that space, and so I'll have to go dig back through those. But if we can get Kevin's contact information, I'm happy to pass those papers along to him as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. How long should I use the device after and before playing or running around?
Typically, and so depends on what your pathologies are. But if it's just from a training standpoint, we would suggest afterwards. It's going to reduce so for example, if you're going to lift, it's going to reduce the delayed onset muscle soreness most effectively by doing that. It's also going to reduce some other things. So there's an inflammatory marker that increases in your blood based on muscular training, so kind of resistance training, called creatine kinase, and it will reduce those creatine kinase levels as well, so that you can actually get back to training faster and more effectively.
Awesome, thank you. So Hiram said, love that you take the time to answer my questions. Can't wait to have mine. So yeah, Hiram, thank you for that. We do as well. We're really excited about it. I know, and Forrest has talked about this earlier, and you've seen it in our communication. I know it's frustrating that you don't have it, but we really are very, very close to that point now. And the announcement next week will be locking in more dates on that deliveries. Justin Powell, another great message from yourself. I can tell you guys are top-notch leaders and working hard to move this forward. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to get this information out to us. I'm looking forward to getting this treatment going on my knee, especially after 2 hours of football, soccer last night.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for the kind notes.
Yeah, love that. That's brilliant. So Hiram, a question from Hiram is, what about IT band pain?
Yes, and that also kind of goes under that same tendinopathy pain, but there are specific ones about IT band pain as well, and that's actually one of the things that I use it for. I tend to get with my CrossFit training, I tend to get very tight with the IT bands, and this is one of the things that I actually use it for. One of the things that I've been testing, and this is just my personal approach to it, is using scrapers with this as well. And the idea being that one of the things that we're doing with the scraper is similar and ideally synergistic. Although I don't have any good way from a data standpoint to really justify that right now. But aside from my own kind of personal story for it, is using the scraper before and after my light therapy treatment when I'm using it for tendinopathy pain like IT band.
Great response. Thank you for that. A question on the emitting at 650 and 808. Does your device emit at 650, 808 like other commercial devices, and what is the difference to other devices?
So yeah, one of the things I was going to touch on earlier, most commercial devices that we've seen are actually at 650 and 850. 850 nanometer near infrared is less effective, but this epitaxial method with the 850 was commercialized earlier. It was used with primarily security lights. So if you ever see a security light that's meant to work in the dark, they will have a number of 850 nanometer LEDs around the edges that illuminate the area and provide a light source during darkness, so that the camera will still work and the CMOS sensor will actually pick up the light that's emitted from those, reflecting back off of the area from those LEDs. And because of that, so that's neither here nor there about the security part, but the fact that it was commercialized earlier means that those 850 nanometer infrared LEDs were available more widely and a lot cheaper than the 808 ones. And so those are typically, and they do have some impact. It's just not the optimal way of dosing. And so what we've seen from most of the, and this is changing over the last couple of years, though, so, and we'll see it change more in the near future because they've gotten better processes for making 808 to 810 nanometer LED chips. But what that means, though, is that basically the guys who are using these, they bought the 850 because they were easier and cheaper to buy, not because the outcome was correct. The 808, the outcome is better. We're actually doing some additional testing internally, and we'll be doing more of that with multiple wavelengths. So moving beyond just 650 and 808, there's a couple of couple more near infrared wavelengths that we're testing with, and then we're also moving back down into the lower end of the visible light spectrum as well, because there's been some very interesting tests on this, kind of using nitric oxide as a heuristic for the physiological impacts of the light systems that have shown that actually using combinations of these can be more powerful than just the two that we're using right now. So we're going to be continuing as new. We stay really. I mean, Tom's kind of hit the nail on the head earlier with the fact that we've been through thousands of papers, and we really stay on top of what's coming out from a medical literature standpoint and from a testing standpoint technically. And we'll be as fast as anyone in the world to adopt what the latest, to test and adopt what the latest, most effective protocols are. And I think you can expect from us over the next 12 to 18 months to see additional products that will be coming with more recent medical literature as a foundation for those from a light engine standpoint.
Great answers, Forrest. Look, we're coming up to an hour. We're still getting questions coming in. We've got a load of people on the chat. We're really happy at that. But I think we're coming up to an hour, and it'll be maybe a good time to take one or two more. So anybody on the chat that's on this video call that still hasn't asked a question yet, but you want something answering, please write it in. We'll come back to you afterwards, either with a video reply to you or an email, or Tor will do whatever's best, depending on the question. But maybe we could have just a couple more questions. So Sebastian Moorfield, who is Sebastian in the house.
Friend. Yeah.
Foot golf friend, that's it. A US represents US in foot golf, right? And one of the best in the world at what he does. So we're welcome to have you on here, Sebastian. Thanks for believing in us and trusting in us. So essentially, Sebastian's asking, how do we know about the specs of the device? How do we know that it's working correctly and it's calibrated correctly for us? Other than the warmth and the light and things like that, what can we expect? What can people expect out of the device?
So we're doing, and this is actually a good point, we're doing 100% testing on these devices coming out with power density meters. And there are specific types of power density we have to use for these. And that's, one good point for this is that it might be worth including in the package that we send out the data that comes out of each device with that OQC kind of validation, so that people know that they this was tested with this level of power output and has been validated. Something actually, this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to have these type of talks. If we know what information is, or what design, or what's going to make this product more useful for you, we're happy to bring this in. And it's something that we can definitely consider with the products that are shipping from a QC standpoint, is being able to record and provide you that validation of what those power densities are, because we're going to be doing, again, 100% testing on the power density with these products before they ship.
Great answer. Thanks for that, Sebastian. And I think, Forrest, the final question is, and then we'll wrap up, and anyone else can ask more questions. I think we've got questions on usability for animals and things like that, which is all obviously absolutely solid and good stuff. I think that the questions that maybe to end on for now is about shipping times. And just to repeat into there, and I think one of the gentlemen that's called Arthur Benjamin was just asking, realistically, what are the shipping times? And will it? Arthur's question is, will it be this year or not? And I can absolutely guarantee, Arthur, it will be this year. We want this with you as much as you want this with you. I can guarantee that much. It's not in our business interest or psychological capacity to not have this with you. But Forrest, maybe you could just reiterate for anybody that's joined the call a bit later what you'd said earlier about shipping. Absolutely. The announcement.
So to make a very long story short, it's been a really rough year from a supply chain standpoint. Availability for parts has been worse than I've seen it in 20 years. And our adjustments to that have kept us from having to eat the months and months that would take and add on as delays for the product. But those redesigns have taken their own time to implement. And we still have constraints from a number of different parts that are just unavoidable. There's no other option or alternative out there that we could actually bring in that's going to be faster for some of these parts. One of the things that shifted us back a couple of times is component delays. We've made a couple of announcements for delivery that we've had to ship back. We've changed our tack for this, which is we were making announcements based on supplier data for deliveries. When we were making these earlier announcements, we've changed our tack for this to, we're not going to promise any delivery dates until we have all components in hand, which will be happening next week. Once we have all components in hand, I believe next Wednesday, we'll be in a position to be able to make our delivery dates, and that's what our live stream next Friday is going to be about. We're planning to announce our specific delivery dates and start getting these dates firmed up, not only in our minds and our logistic and operational team minds, but also in the community's mind, just so that everybody knows when we can start kind of delivering these. And I think we're at the end of a very long tunnel. We've got light now ahead of us, and we're
red light.
Yes, red light or infrared. At the near infrared light at the end of the tunnel. But we're looking forward to kind of relaying more of that to you next week. So if you've got 10 or in minutes or an hour to come sit with us next week and do the same kind of Q&A. We're going to be talking about delivery dates next week.
And I've just had a message in, Forrest, as well from Tyler, our marketing director, and he's just said he's made for 48 hours. He's made a code available for anybody on this call. If you haven't bought yet, you can get 10% off with the code MOVE, MOVE, all lowercase, for an extra 10% off. So feel free to share that with your friends or family or anyone that you think would be beneficial of that. The purpose of this call is to update you. It's not to drive that side of it, but it's always nice that if Tyler's going to give some discount, then we might as well share it out.
Take it with both hands and run.
A couple of messages from people. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work, and thanks for the support. I think we probably answered just about everything there. Maybe you could just give a super quick answer to: is this device suitable and usable for animals, horse tendons, etc.? I think that's
yes, absolutely it is. And actually, we've seen. There's a number of products that went out first into that market because there was less regulatory around it with regards to the FDA. But yes, it is. It's very usable for animals. I've got a Australian Shepherd at my house who has bad hips because she's getting older, and it's one of the things that actually helps her a lot. So it is definitely usable for animals.
Yeah, and also, Forrest, it's worth pointing out that although probably it's to be used on over 18s for theory, but we both have young children, 4 years old, 5 years old, and we use it on them for any body injuries they get and things like this. So it is safe. It is very good for recovery. It's the science. It's not woo-woo. So it's the science that makes it clean and safe based on all that. So
that's right. Actually, if one of the things that was most impressive to me out of that, though, was my younger one fell, skidded his knee, and it grew it healed in like 2 days from putting this on there. But also, it just gave him something to feel like it was there's a bit of also I'd imagine a placebo effect for those guys, because it just gives them something to do to be able to treat those wounds. And even at the surface level wounds, because we've included the red in here, it does. Wound healing is a really powerful treatment modality from light therapy.
Yeah, and I've got to add, one of my personal testimonials is my wife, who just gave birth 10 weeks ago with cesarean, and she only had one night in hospital. She was using the device, only had to stay one night. Usually you'd have to stay at least a couple or three, and within 2 or 3 days she could stand upright as well, and she used it every day for a couple of weeks, and she just felt much better than when she'd had the same situation 4 years ago with my first child. So yeah, amazing. Just, if you get it for your knee or another joint part, feel free to try it in other areas of your body, right? And experiment and let your wife or partner use it. And yeah, try it, see how it goes.
And if you do make these experiments, one of the things that we found is that particularly with pathologies that are have a high level or associated with a high level of inflammation, it's been very effective. One example is we had a friend's wife use it for endometriosis, and went from 100% pain to 0% pain after 20 minutes of treatment, which, that's anything that you can promise that type of reaction with is just amazing. Like it's really a shocking, kind of impressive act when you can see this type of thing. But endometriosis is also kind of highly correlated with high levels of inflammation. So when you have inflammation, whether it's a wound on the surface of your skin, or endometriosis, or osteoarthritis, or whatever, edema from an ankle sprain, you name it, these type of things you're going to see really powerful impacts on.
Great, thank you. So Tudor says, thanks, great information, stay safe. Eliana says, thanks for the updates, working so diligently to get this wonderful product. It's going to change our lives. And Sean says, congrats on the new crew member. So thank you for all of that information. This new strip, the new straps are going to be available for order. Probably we would anticipate at some point in August, we will start to discuss that with the community and things, and probably available pre-order, I would guess in September sometime, Forrest, maybe something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, keep the community, keep sending us message on Facebook. We're working hard. We're going to get this out to you. Thank you all, and join us next Friday. I think, Forrest, that's right.
Absolutely. We'll finally be popping some champagne next Friday and promising some dates. So that's a really exciting space to be in.
Thank you all for your support. Really appreciate it. And Tor, you've done a great job again today. behind the scenes. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Tom.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye now.